Number 10. Starting off our countdown at number 10 is the free-to-play player named Pause. Pause was the very first person to achieve max total in free-to-play only, and he was also the very first person to get 200 mil fishing in free-to-play only as well. Pause maxed on August 23, 2016, and as of September 2nd, 2017, which is over 1 year later, still nobody else has maxed in free-to-play. It is important to note that there is a Runescape player named Susan that trains free-to-play skills in members' worlds, which does not count towards the free-to-play only goal. The closest person to maxing in free-to-play is a player named No Comfort, who is still over 150 hours for maxing. At the time of Pause maxing, he had played a total of 4,220 hours. It also took Pause 2,586 hours to get 200 mil fishing in free-to-play. Number 9. Next on our countdown at number 9 is a player named UnoDeToutes. And I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong in advance. UnoDeToutes was the very first player to achieve 200 mil in all melee stats in old school Runescape. I'm not entirely sure how much of this experience was a Nightmare Zone and how much of this experience was AFK Nightmare Zone, which basically allowed players to use methods prior to the patch. But what I do know is this player is an absolute beast, having insanely high combat experience in both RuneScape 3 and in old school RuneScape. It is important to note that this player also has another account named UnoDeToutes 3, which is nearly 200 mil in all combat stats, with the exception of defense, which he's just over 175 million, and I expect him to hit 200 mil in this stat within the next month. UnoDeToutes was the very first player to achieve 200 mil hit points in old school RuneScape on April 26, 2015, and funnily enough, he's also ranked 15 in hit points on his ult at 200 mil as well. Number 8. Next on our countdown at number 8 is Wooks being the first player to defeat the Inferno. Wooks defeated the Inferno on June 3, 2017, nearly 48 hours after its release. Wooks had promised the JMod said he would actually complete it within 24 hours, and although he didn't hold up to his promise, he was pretty dang close. For those of you who do not stay up to date with old school RuneScape, the Inferno was released on June 1, 2017, and it is the hardest PvM or player versus monster challenge in game. Defeating the Inferno, which is 69 waves, will give a player the best in slot melee cape, which is the Inferno cape. What makes it even more amazing that Wooks was the very first person to defeat the Inferno was the fact that he wasn't even at Jagex headquarters to test out the Inferno. For those of you who do not know, 13 different content creators were invited to the Jagex headquarters to test out the Inferno before the final boss was released, and Wooks wasn't there. I'm not entirely sure how much changes were made to the Inferno and to the final boss between then and the time of the release, but those content creators definitely had an advantage heading into the Inferno, at least understanding some of the mechanics. Wooks didn't understand any of the mechanics, and he was still the very first person to complete the Inferno. And for being the first player to defeat the Inferno, Wooks received an in real life Inferno cape, a RuneFest 2017 ticket and travel, as well as a lifetime membership. Congrats. Number 7. Next on our countdown at number 7 is the RuneScape player Rennes. Rennes was the very first person to max 2 different accounts in old school RuneScape. His very first account, Rennes, maxed on April 5th, 2014. Over a half a year later, on November 24th, 2014, Rennes was actually banned for real-world trading. But it gets a little bit more interesting than that. Back on May 21st of 2014, Rennes actually became a player monitor, and this player moderation lasted 3 weeks. Side note, this is probably a record for the shortest amount of time a player has ever held player moderation status. But it was actually revoked on June 16th, nearly 3 weeks later, after Hexus sent info into Jagex about him auto-clicking in real-world trading. After Rennes was permanently banned in November of 2014, he decided to train his Wyvern ult, which was known as Flash IRC, and become another maxed account. Rennes finally accomplished this on a second account, Flash IRC, on July 26, 2015, which was his 22nd birthday. Pretty cool. Flash IRC is not banned as of today, but it's actually not played by Rennes anymore. It's played by one of his friends. As far as Rennes, well, it sounds like he's doing pretty good when I was talking to him. He's went from being addicted to Runescape and playing 12 to 15 hours a day, to having a gym addiction, socializing with friends, and even focusing on university towards his future. Number 6. Coming in at number 6 on our list is 200 mil mining by Acid Soul. Acid Soul became the first player to get 200 mil mining on May 1st, 2014. The first crazy thing that sticks out to me is this achievement was done in 14 months. Old School RuneScape came out in February of 2013, and this achievement was completed in May of 2014, which is absolutely insane. Secondly, we can look how mining has evolved in the game throughout the duration of the history of Old School RuneScape, and now there's dragon pickaxes and things like that. Acid Soul had no dragon pickaxe use for his first 170 million mining experience. The dragon pickaxe didn't come out until March of 2014, and by that time he was almost done with his goal already. Furthermore, he used the query, and he's one of the very few players in Old School RuneScape to ever use the query method on their way to 200 mil mining. It's important to note that Acid Soul really wasn't that devoted into mining until July 22nd, 2013, and at that point he only had 25 million mining experience. But in the next 9 months, he got his final 175 mil. Now while he was at the query, he had to compete with the best players in the best worlds in order to make them leave and hop. I would imagine at this point in the game, rocks still spawned based upon population, so the higher populated worlds would spawn rocks quicker than the lower populated worlds, and this is what he was referring to. Overall, Acid Soul says that he's extremely proud of what he's done, and that he hopes that his achievement will inspire other players to strive for their goals as devotedly as he did. Number 5. Coming in at number 5 on our list of the top 10 Old School RuneScape achievements is Paul No Life getting 200 mil runecrafting experience doing only nature runes after 99. So nowadays with runecrafting, there's many different ways to train the skill. The quickest way is to do lava runes. Some people elect to do blood runes or soul runes because it is a little bit more AFK and it's still decent money. Not many people choose to do nature runes due to how slow it is. You can get between 25 and 30k experience per hour, but you do make a lot of money doing it. So for Paul No Life to get 200 mil runecrafting experience using no runners, doing it by himself would take between 3,000 and 4,000 hours, depending exactly upon how much experience per hour he was getting. Furthermore, in the process, he would craft over 41 million nature runes. Paul said he made 12 billion GP on his way to 200 mil runecrafting, and he made an additional 3 billion GP from merching in the process. Number 4. Coming in at number 4 on our list is MultiKeys achieving 200 million Slayer experience. MultiKeys achieved this on December 24th, 2015, nearly 34 months after the release of Old School RuneScape. 200 mil Slayer was a really notable feat because it was the last skill for anyone to achieve 200 million experience in it. That stat alone shows just how hard it was to achieve 200 mil Slayer during this time. I did a video on my channel of how Slayer meta, or most efficient technique used, has evolved over the course from 2013 to 2017, so I have a really good understanding of how much Slayer has actually evolved. To give you guys some context, I'm going to leave a chart on the screen now, but the most the experience ever was for MultiKeys on its way to 200 million experience was 48k. Now it's in 2015. For the bulk of his Slayer, which was between December of 2013 and January of 2015, MultiKeys was getting 40,000 experience per hour. To truly understand what an insane accomplishment this is, at a 40,000 experience rate per hour, to get 200 million experience is 5,000 hours. Now this isn't even factoring the experience rates in 2013 when they were between 20 and 25k up until December and things like that. So he spent over 5,000 hours on his journey to 200 mil Slayer. What an absolutely insane accomplishment MultiKeys, and if there's anyone who can complain about how their accomplishment has been devalued over time due to increasing experience rates, it's definitely you. You were doing Slayer at 40,000 experience per hour, and nowadays you can get upwards of 85,000 barraging tasks. Number 3. You guys have made it into the top 3. Thank you guys so much for watching so far. I hope you guys are enjoying this. Let's do this. Coming in at number 3 on our countdown is the very first person to max in old school RuneScape. Maxing is in achieving 2,277 total, which was Jebram. Jebram, who many people know him as the agility guy, as he's currently on his way to 1 billion agility experience, achieved this only 8 months after the release of old school RuneScape on October 27, 2013. Jebram was among a very select percentage of players who really knew about macro efficiency in the early stages of the game, whereas many of us learned it as the game progressed. To give you guys exactly some context of how deeply inclined Jebram was of macro efficiency, I can recall one individual event with him where I was selling him potions for Herbler. As I was one of the top herblerists in the game at the time, I was 4th to 99 in old school RuneScape, I often sold pots to Jebram. And Jebram bought normal energy potions to save money. He didn't ever want to buy the super energy potions because they were more expensive and it wasn't worth it for him. But anyways, during one meetup, I was doing some calculations while in the trade window to make sure that he had paid me the right amount of money. And while I was doing the calculations, I noticed that he was spamming the chat, saying, "Come on, hurry, let's go." Things of that nature to really, speed me along and allow him to get back to what he was doing. It's also important to note that Jebram didn't go for max right away. He did agility first, and he was the first player to 99 agility. After he got agility, he decided to go for max. If Jebram really wanted to do maxing in the most efficient way, he would have done fishing first to get his original agility experience and then proceed with whatever he did after. But overall, what an insane accomplishment. He finished 16 days ahead of the very second person to max, which was User, and my hat's off to you, as I still haven't maxed nearly 4.5 years later. Number 2. Coming in at number 2 was the very first person to max an Ultimate Ironman on old school RuneScape. That player was Lowlander, and he achieved this on July 17th, 2016. Lowlander achieved this 21 months after the release of Ironman mode, which was released on October 13th, 2014. For those of you who don't stay up to date with old school RuneScape, at the end of Tutorial Island, you can either continue to play the normal version of the game, or you can either speak to Adam, Juan, or Paul before teleporting to the Magic Instructor and choosing if you want to play Ironman mode, Ultimate Ironman mode, or Hardcore Ironman mode. In any of the Ironman modes selected, there is no grand exchange available for you. Most group minigames are disabled, as well as group activities, and you can't do any PvP. Ultimate Ironman mode takes it a step further than Ironman mode because you can't do any banking. So yes, Lowlander achieved 2,277 or max total level without banking at all. That's absolutely insane. Now some of you guys are probably asking, how can you possibly play the game without banking? And the answer for you is these Ultimate Ironmen typically use a looting bag. A looting bag can be obtained in the wilderness, and it can store a total of 28 additional items. So therefore, a player can store 55 items, as well as the looting bag, so 56, in their inventory at one time. Now this doesn't replace a bank by any means, but this is how they do it. I think Group Ironman is coming out in the near future, and I bet you what, a lot of people are probably trying to play with Lowlander. Number 1. Coming in at number 1 on our list is Lynx Titan. As you guys have probably guessed it, Lynx Titan is the very first and still the only player who has achieved 4 billion total experience in old school RuneScape, and there is a 100% chance that Lynx Titan will be the very first person to 4.6 billion total experience in old school RuneScape, or 23 200 mil stats. Lynx achieved 4 billion experience on March 20th, 2017, and besides last month's hiatus where he didn't log in for 1 week at all due to a camping trip, Lynx has played a total of 17 hours per day on average since old school RuneScape came out. In 2015, at RuneFest, something really funny happened. Lynx Titan and another player named Forsberg888 was given the Lifelong Achievement Award, which is a golden gnome at RuneFest. Funnily enough, and Jagex didn't even know it at this time, these two players are the same people. Lynx Titan is Forsberg888 in RuneScape 3, who has 5.2 billion total experience, all 200 mil stats, with the exception of not having any experience in the new skill Invention. I just want to add this last part in really quickly. Coming from a hockey background, it's really awesome to see that Lynx Titan's name in Runescape 3 was Forsberg 888 after the legend Peter Forsberg, who's actually from Sweden, where Lynx Titan is from. If you guys want to learn more information about Lynx, I'll include his AMA or Ask Me Anything on Reddit in the description below. Anyways guys, this is going to complete another video of the top 10 greatest achievements in old school RuneScape. I hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you guys later for another video. Take care. Peace.